Welcome back to Send Better Emails,
Hello, welcome.
the number one podcast for...
Who's doing it again?
We're not the number one podcast for anything, I don't think.
We might be. The number one podcast for the Inbox Club.
Yeah, we're definitely that. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
This is the podcast that helps you to send better emails.
My girlfriend said that I look like a squashy this morning.
A squashy?
Yeah, you know, like the drumstick squashies.
I do know what they are because I fucking love squashies.
Do you?
Yeah, they're my favourite sweet.
Well, mate, you're going to be
Delicious.
you're going to be salivating when you finally get yourself into the office today.
Can you stand up for us?
Yeah. Let me show
Have
you.
you got like white bottoms on?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
See,
Squashy. I'm salivating.
you're always salivating when you see me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
I like
nice.
squashies. They've got like different flavours out now though with different colours. And I don't really like it when brands do that, to be honest.
I think I've seen like a green and yellow.
Yeah.
Have I seen that? Or
green
am I
and
making
yellow.
that up?
I think it's green and pink, maybe. Or
Norwich.
like blue and pink.
You'd love the green and yellow, wouldn't you? Because that's Norwich.
Yeah.
Oh, Norwich.
Yeah, I don't like it when brands bring out all these like new wacky flavours. I like the traditional. I like the classics.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all the different gin flavours. Oh, like pink and chocolate orange and all this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
just serve me gin.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I'm glad that I know that. I'm going to have to get a refund on the Christmas presents I bought you.
There's no way you're organised enough to have bought Christmas presents in August.
I think I think if you're buying Christmas presents before Black Friday, you're psychotic. I would go as far as to say that is unhealthy behaviour.
And that's the demographic we're offending today. Welcome back to Send Better Emails. We want to talk about a very underrated list growth tactic for content creators. And actually it expands beyond content creators. We just think it's particularly potent when it comes to people that are content creators. So don't switch off if you're not a content creator. You will still find this interesting. We're going to try and keep it short for you as well. Snappy. But yes, if you are a content creator listening to this, sit up, listen, fingers on lips.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, this tactic is not some like hidden secret that we discovered or anything like that. It's underrated because I don't think many newsletter operators recognize how powerful it is. So this is something that if you run a newsletter in any sort of serious capacity, you probably have at least thought of or maybe even tried before, but it's understanding just how kind of potent this tactic is and why, and some advice about how you can really maximize that. So Jamie, do you want to unveil the tactic before we go any further?
I'll do the unveil. Oh no, sorry. I'll keep my top on. Yes. So the unveiling of this underrated tactic, drum roll. We shouldn't have beefed it up this much.
I know.
The tactic we want to talk about is cross promotion through other newsletters and partnering up with people that are running newsletters. Maybe like a shout out for a shout out or something. So we think that is an incredibly underrated. It might not be your best performing list growth tactic, but we want to bring it up because we think it's the most underrated.
Yeah, for sure. So this is not applicable to brands that run newsletters. I want to make that really clear. I would say that generally speaking, it's much harder for brands to do this. It's not impossible, but I would say that, yeah, this is really for people that are sending content through the newsletter and building a newsletter business, be it creators who want to add a newsletter to their artillery of content channels, or to newsletter focused businesses that are, you know, like maybe you run an AI newsletter, for example, or you run a fantasy football newsletter or whatever it might be, or you run a local newsletter that shares rubbish historical secrets like Jamie and I do. You know, for those businesses, cross-newsletter collaboration is incredibly potent. And I think the first reason why people are reticent to try it sometimes is because they think to themselves, well, where am I going to find an audience that's relevant to my newsletter? And the answer is in newsletters that are very similar to what you do. So therefore, the conclusion is, well, those are my competitors. Why would they ever want to promote me? And why would I want to promote them? And the answer to that is that the way that people consume content is different to the way that they buy brands. You know, if you're buying a barbecue, you buy one barbecue, you probably don't need to buy another barbecue for 3 years, which means, you know, cross-promoting with your competitors would be a terrible idea. But people are very open to the idea of listening to, of reading multiple newsletters, just in the same way that they're very open to the idea of listening to multiple podcasts about the same topic. You know, people don't tend to listen to one true crime podcast and then just forevermore never listen to another true crime podcast. They listen to others. They look for other stuff. Every newsletter is different, unless you're literally copying a newsletter word for word. And if you are, please stop that. Every newsletter is different. It brings something slightly new, even if it's focused around the same topic. So, to just quickly diminish that concern, your competitors will generally be open to cross-promotion because they know that their target audience are likely to subscribe to multiple newsletters around the same topic.
Nice. I think that's very true. And you've painted that picture perfectly, and there's nothing I need to say to back it up, to be honest. It's you raised a point before we pressed record on here that I really liked as well, which is around not everyone likes reading newsletters, but if you cross promote in other newsletters, you jump that hurdle because you know people are already receiving and reading that medium.
Yeah. I think this is something that's very sad and difficult for me to admit as a newsletter enthusiast. But there are some people that I talk to that just won't subscribe to newsletters. Like, it's just not a format of content that they ever want to engage with. They might be video watchers, just in the same way that you've probably met someone that's like, oh, I don't listen to podcasts. You know, like, it's just not really a thing. And newsletters are becoming more normalized, and they're obviously having a moment. You know, over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, long form content's becoming more and more popular again. So, you know, I rejoice whenever someone launches a newsletter, because the more newsletters that are launched, the more normal it will be for people to consume content in the inbox, and for the inbox to be seen as a place for content consumption and not just kind of sales messaging or, you know, annoying work queries or whatever it might be that obliges you to check your emails. So, yes, but there are still plenty of people that just don't consume content over newsletters. And once you understand that revelation, you start to understand why cross-newsletter promotion is so valuable and converts so disproportionately well compared to other promotional channels. And that's because, yeah, people who are reading a newsletter and see your newsletter advert are way more likely to subscribe, simply because they already like reading newsletters. That's why they're reading the newsletter you're advertising on.
Nice. And, you know, examples of that might be, you know, if you have a history newsletter, you might want to cross promote with someone else who's running a history newsletter, right? And that shouldn't be seen as two people competing. You know, it's two people who share an audience. And, you know, if you have different niches, maybe one of you does Middle England and one of you does the 2 World Wars, you know, or something. You know, I think it should be viewed as we share an audience, we're not competing for the same audience. And you know, maybe another thing is, okay, well, sports is another thing as well. So, you know, sports related things, you know, you maybe have a newsletter for the Premier League. Those people might also, you might then speak to someone who's selling sports memorabilia or merchandise, or, you know, maybe not selling, but talking about that kind of stuff. So there are ways in which we can share audiences and cross promote that doesn't, you know, it's an organic way as well. That's what I like about it. You know, when it's an organic way and a really cost effective way to grab subscribers.
Yeah, it is, exactly. And Jamie, you're exactly right there. There will always be overlaps of the Venn diagrams, right? And this is the thing, like, the best thing that could happen to Secret Norwich, let's use Secret Norwich as an example, is now on nearly 7,500 subscribers. The best thing that could happen to Secret Norwich really is that another local newsletter starts with a really aggressive growth plan like the one that we have, where they're running paid ads, where they're really proactively seeking out an audience, but it's focused on, say, restaurant reviews in Norwich. Now that is different enough to us. We focus more on history, but there's going to be a clear crossover there. There's going to be new people that discover that newsletter, and then hopefully, if we did collaborate, discover our newsletter through that one. So it's almost like it's almost like there are two entities working on gaining a relevant audience rather than one. And of course, with some newsletter service providers, NSPs, I don't know, is that an acronym that ever gets used? We've coined it now. Newsletter service providers like Beehive, like Kit, for example. It's very, very easy to recommend other newsletters. They actually have like an inbuilt network that allows you to subscribe to other newsletters should you wish. It makes it all very, very easy. So let's say, for example, if you subscribe to Lazy FPL, my fantasy football newsletter, you'll get recommended 4 other newsletters immediately after you've subscribed, 2 of which we run, by the way. And we're sending subscribers to these passively because they just, as people subscribe to our newsletter, we're then introducing them to another newsletter, and we write a little blurb that says, this is why we like this newsletter. And it's amazing how well they convert. We're probably talking about 15 to 20% of subscribers for Lazy FPL will then go on to subscribe to another newsletter as well. So, that doesn't necessarily sound like a huge amount if you're talking like tens of subscribers. But when you start getting into hundreds and thousands of subscribers, suddenly that 15, 20% is quite a significant boost. So these platforms offer loads of ways to collaborate. If you're newsletter focused, it's definitely something that you should be tapping into.
Yeah, having the right tech here is super important as well. Like you can do partnerships and referral schemes and whatever it is through any platform. But there are platforms that are built for this stuff. I think if you're not on one of those, it's worth checking out because, you might you end up paying less money for a tool that's better suited to you.
I would also shout out Sparkloop, which is sort of like a bolt-on referral system. So if you are on MailChimp, for example, which a lot of newsletter operators are, but it doesn't have built-in kind of cross-promotional tools, Sparkloop is sort of your cross-promotional tool that you can bolt onto any email service provider you like and start tapping into their extensive network of other newsletters that use Sparkloop. So Sparkloop. In fact, there are some Beehive and Kit users that also have Sparkloop just because it's a whole other network of newsletters that aren't on Beehive or Kit, but that are still worth collaborating with.
Nice. I was going to suggest we talk about like how you go about doing it, but I don't want to talk about that because we can't give away too much. But I think if this is a topic that you're interested in, or you want some help kind of activating this kind of thing, just get in touch with us. We'll sit down, we'll have a chat with you. We'll talk about how what's worked and what hasn't worked, and maybe what the best move is for you.
Yeah, what I would say, just to not leave you empty-handed, is if you're thinking about outreach to other newsletters, find newsletters that are adjacent but not identical to yours, which should be quite easy, and treat them like you would any other collaboration, right? I think the idea here is there's no secret sauce necessarily. Of course, yes, there are tactics and there's an art to finding newsletters that are actually a good fit. And we can help with all of that stuff. There's also the promotion itself, like how are you phrasing it, where in the email is it going, and all of that stuff that we can help you with as well. But foundationally, like, this is relationship building in the same way that any content collaboration is. If you're relationship building with other newsletters, that's a great start.
Nice, good stuff. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Promised it would be short. Anything else you want to add there, James?
What time are we on? 14 minutes. Lovely.
Yeah, lovely little snappy one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to come to the office now.
Oh, good. About time.
come salivate over you and your outfit, your squashy outfit.
Come and give me a chew.
Yeah. Right, we'll leave it at that. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.